Thank you, Chairman Buckley. First and foremost, I want to thank you and Vice Chair Bernal for all your hard work. As the only member who's still on the floor who was on the Special Ed Finance Commission, the work you're doing to go to the intensity model is really critical. I'm glad we're finally seeing that hopefully get across the finish line. I also want to thank you for your work on the bilingual ed and all of the wonderful things in the bill. I do have some questions for some clarification, if that's okay with you. Can you help me understand your justification in changing the golden penny yield from what is currently in statute? As a conferee on HB3, we had large debates on how we were going to do the golden penny yield, and so I was curious to see the change in HB2.
You know, the golden penny yield and the funding provided by that before House Bill 2 really is inequitable. It's Tier 2 focused. We know that the best way to get dollars in Texas classrooms is to put it in Tier 1 funding. You know, last session we put nearly $2.5 billion into our public schools, but it didn't go to them equitably because of the way that golden penny yield was described in law. This takes those dollars and it puts it in the basic allotment so that we can finally achieve what school leaders and teachers and parents have been asking for, and that is every biennium an increase in the basic allotment. And we know that the basic allotment really is the foundation of the program that funds our public schools. And so this is, to me, is a way to make sure the dollars remain in the classroom. It drives it for Tier 1 instruction, and to me is a very novel way to make sure we get those investments in our schools.
I don't disagree with you that golden pennies have been a cause or a reason to have inequity in our school funding formula. I think what I'm a little bit concerned about, and I think this is more for conversation going into conference, is how can we make sure that the golden penny yield isn't changed to the point where it's not increasing, instead of increasing the value of the golden pennies each year when the property values increase, that it increases. So I guess my point is I'm concerned that as property values increase, the golden penny yield changes might create more inequity, and that's one thing I think you're trying to move away from. And so my ask is for us to reconsider how we're doing this golden penny. I only say this because we worked really hard in HB3 to put bands of equity to make sure school districts who could benefit the most from the golden pennies weren't able to have that ability to go off the rails and create even stronger, larger gaps of inequity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I know that one thing when you look back, and we looked at this real closely throughout history, you can't find a time in Texas through our school funding period where statewide property values did not increase session after session. So, you know, I really respect what you're talking about, and we've had real thorough discussions about this. But I think when we have the opportunity to take dollars that are now being distributed, inequitably, if you will, and put it in a mechanism that drives the growth we see statewide, the success of Texas. Property values grow when you have a booming, successful economy, right? We can drive these dollars in the spot to drive it into Tier 1 funding. But I respect your concerns. That's one of the things we've looked at. You have my word that we'll make sure we continue to follow that.
I appreciate that, because I agree with you. On the Tier 1 funding, that is the best and most equitable way to address school finance. I'm just concerned in this other change we could be increasing inequities, and so we have to be really careful. The other two questions I have is how much is in the HB2 is appropriated for facility funding for charter schools?
Well, it stair steps. We grow it over time. The amount here, let me find it exactly for you. It's $260 million.
$260 million,
Yes.
but it grows over time?
Yeah, it's stair stepped in the first 2 years.
Okay. And the last question I have is, when we did HB3, one of the things that was really helpful for us who were looking at big picture, I'm really grateful that you gave us our district runs, but I think what's important for me to understand, because I don't just care about my district, I care about the state as a whole. I care about making sure we're creating equitable formulas. Will you be able to distribute statewide runs to all of us so I can do my own analysis, so I can see, is equity being sustained, something that's been very important to you, to the members who've been working on school finance for a really long time?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Chair.
And the way we handled the runs was to make sure we got in the hands of the members, because we're having a debate today, right? We're talking about a bill. So we wanted you to be able to see what the impact of the bill was, and the runs you have show the impact of the perfecting amendment, okay, in most instances. And so that way it gives us a great starting point. But we'll certainly provide that to members as we get this bill off the floor.
I appreciate that. I feel when we did HB3, we handed out, because I was there, similar to your position, handing out packets of the entire state. And I think for all of us to I don't think it's good for us to only think about our districts sometimes. We have to think about statewide implications. I appreciate that.
You bet.